right, what's going on, boys? Welcome back to the 2021 NFL season previews. Started last week with the AFC East and the NFC East. Me, Spread, and Tyler are back. We're going to tackle the AFC and NFC West right now. What's going on, boys?
Not much. We're over in my neck of the woods today with all my local teams, so pretty excited to break these down.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Tig?
Nothing much. Watching a summer league game between our top two picks. I mean, we did the NFC East. We had some good takes. Now it's time for the NFC and AFC West. I think we're gonna have a couple Super Bowl picks in this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right. So right now we're on Houston. They got a 2-point lead. Tyler got us on that. Love to see it. I got my Mongolian chicken from the Chinese takeout on the way. I mean, yeah, we're having a day right now. All right, so we'll start in the AFC West. We'll start with the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, they go 14-2. They ended up finishing second in offensive DVOA, 22nd on defense. No real big surprise there, although the defense, I think, finished like 18th or something the year before. So maybe the defense slightly underperformed last year. As far as the offseason moves, they built up the offensive line in the offseason. They picked up Kyle Long this year, right? But he ends up getting hurt, and I believe he's out for the year. So that acquisition isn't really going to mean much. They signed Joe Thuney, a guard. They pick up Orlando Brown from the Ravens, and they picked up Austin Blythe from the Rams. As far as skill position players, I know that they let go of running back Damian Williams, who I believe signed with the Bears. I'm not sure, though. But they picked up Jerick McKinnon, which doesn't mean a ton, but some extra help in the running back room at least. Nothing much to talk about in terms of their wide receivers, aside from Sammy Watkins now is a Bear, so he's not there anymore. As far as the draft, they did not have a first-round draft pick, but they picked up a solid linebacker out of Mizzou in Nick Bolton, solid offensive lineman out of Oklahoma, but that's really it there. And that's it. So here we are. The only futures that I've personally bet involving the Chiefs are, I did take them to win the Super Bowl at plus 525. I think there's value in the number because of how many teams could beat this team in this league when they're playing at their absolute best. The list could potentially be nobody when they're playing at their absolute best. But it's a set it and forget it. You bet it, you throw the ticket in your draw, and you know they're going to be deep in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's the only thing I bet so far. Spread, I'll start with you. Thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs this year?
Yeah, great job by the general manager to address the deficiencies on the offensive line. Orlando Brown, what a pickup there from Orlando. Joe Thuney, we know, New England, great factory there. And then not to mention they drafted Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Now, Trey Smith is a 6th rounder scheduled to start. I guess that's a bit of a concern, but right guard's actually where you can eat the inexperience the most. If you got 4 out of 5 and your right guard's the weakness, then you're pretty much a typical NFL team. We already know about the weapons. Unbelievable what he's got to work with here with Patrick Mahomes, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and Demarcus Robinson. What an offense, and the defense just continues to get better, led by Chris Jones, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. So I don't see any reason why the Chiefs aren't going to win the AFC West again this year. There, of course, should be the top, in my mind, to go 3 Super Bowl trips in a row. And I think only injuries keeps this team from being there, because I will still say that I misjudged the injury to Luke Fisher last year. And if they would have had that same line that we saw the whole year, they could have repeated as Super Bowl champions. So I think the Chiefs are the rightful favorite to win the AFC West, win the AFC, and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tyler, the season win total is 12.5 under minus 130. Just thoughts on Kansas City?
I mean, you just got to take the over with this team. The only thing that's going to stop this team is going to be injuries. Because, I mean, looking at their depth chart, like behind their starters, they really don't have anybody that can replace them. Like, if Hill goes down, now you're looking at a receiving core led by McCole Hardman. Probably got to put Demarcus Robinson next to him and Pringle in the slot. Where would we rank that when it comes to weapons?
Bad.
Pretty low. Yeah, pretty low.
Pretty low. Yeah.
But Kelsey's still there too.
That's agree.
Fair play.
An injury to him though too. Like now you're bringing in a rookie, Noah Gray. Yeah. So it's like they are a couple injuries away from being right out of the Super Bowl picture. But behind that offensive line, Mahomes should have like 6 to 7 seconds to throw every play. I actually think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to benefit more from that offensive line. They're just going to open up holes for him. He's just going to have a great running season. So I actually like his prop over. But other than that, I mean, plug the Chiefs in for 13 to 14 wins, and they're probably in the AFC Championship game unless something goes drastically wrong.
All right, so you're going to be our schedule guy again tonight. Pull up the Chiefs' schedule. You're basically saying they have to go 13-4 with no wiggle room. You would really like them to go 14-3 spread to have at least a cushion in order to bet that over 12.5. Now that's the DraftKings number. I don't know if you could find a number out there in even 12. I'm more interested because if they go 12-5, you push. You don't lose any money. But I don't know if there really are any 12s.
Bookmaker looks like it's headed that way because my over 12.5 is plus 118.
Mine's plus 110. Yeah. So maybe
what I don't like is sometimes they won't even move it and they'll just keep jacking.
Yeah, they just leave it heavily juiced.
Yeah.
I'll say FanDuel was hanging 12.5 at plus 125, so that number is just all over the place depending on the book.
Does anybody have the odds in front of them to win the AFC West?
I can.
Give me 1 second.
They have substantial, right?
I think they're like minus 270.
Okay. Now,
I think one worry when you're taking the over there too is with the extra games, how many does Mahomes sit out if they get the number 1 seed? You know, the other worry there. Say they clinch in week 15, and then you're without Mahomes 16 and 17, right? So that's going to be an issue as well. So
the other thing is this offensive line. I mean, as great as they are on paper, none of these guys have played together before. So like chemistry is going to have to be built.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they're plus 250 to win the AFC. Now, I think that realistically, I think Buffalo is a threat. If that Buffalo defense plays like it did 2 years ago and Josh Allen stays at the level that he played last year, I think that Buffalo's a threat to potentially win the AFC this year. Outside of that, it's hard for me to take Baltimore seriously when their quarterback throws the ball worse than he runs it. And Tennessee
has no defense.
They have no defense, right? And, I think Justin Herbert's still going to need a year probably until you could really throw the Chargers into the conversation. So do you guys see anybody outside of the Bills that gives them a real threat?
I do.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's defense is going to be vastly improved. Remember 2 years ago, they rode that defense, and then it was crazy statistically, the drop-offs that both Buffalo had, because Buffalo statistically was one of the best defenses for the 2019 season. And then last year, they turned into this offensive powerhouse. Tennessee, kind of the same deal. A lot of reports I'm reading out of the Titans camp is that this defense is going to be a lot better. They got a couple injuries back. I think Tennessee would be a legitimate challenger.
I mean, when you think about how good those defenses were in 2019, right? Mm-hmm. I know that the Bills were either the first or second best defense in 2019. There's no way they're giving up 35 points a game this year, are they? They can't.
Yeah, I think both of them fix it. Yeah, I think both those teams fix it.
So you view Tennessee as a legitimate threat spread?
Yeah, I think you got it pretty good. Buffalo's probably the number 1, and then in my mind, Tennessee would be under Buffalo, like a tier below Buffalo as a threat.
Tennessee's 13-1 to win the AFC, which I guess we'll talk about when we get to that division. But go ahead, Tyler. What were you saying? Another team you liked?
I mean, just the one team you skipped on that list.
Who? Cleveland?
How do you beat Kansas City? You run the ball and you keep the ball away from them. They got 2 running backs. They can just bang them in and out, run the ball on the field, waste 10 minutes, walk it into the end zone. All of a sudden, the first quarter's only got 3 minutes left. Now you're giving Mahomes the ball.
Spread couldn't even control himself. He went, no.
I mean,
if Baker Mayfield beats Pat Mahomes in a playoff game, you could just take all, I'll take that loss all day.
I know all we've done is shit on him, but dude was probably the most underrated quarterback last year when you look at the stats.
I mean, Spread, they were up like 10-0 in that playoff game, weren't they?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, and you got a good point, Tyler. I when it comes down to it, I just can't see him getting it done against Mahomes and what I would expect to be a shootout. Good point, though. I think, and hey, he could get it done before.
Defense, like they have the pass rushers to get Mahomes out of the pocket and flustered like he was in that Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I think Cleveland's their biggest threat.
I mean, they're the 4th choice at 8-1. They're $5 less than the Tennessee Titans to win the AFC.
I like Tennessee more.
All right, so let me ask you this question. I was watching. This really has no bearing on betting, right? But I was watching the Madden rankings on ESPN, right? And they set the Honey Badger as 99, the not only the best safety in football currently, but they made him a perfect scorer. Do you guys think like he's that much better than the rest of the safeties?
It was just all the way he ended the season last year. He looked great to end the season. So Madden just took that and ran with it. They were in the Super Bowl. He was like the key part of the defense. That's why he got the 99.
All right, let's see if we could snuff out the season win total. Do you see 4 or 5 losses on that schedule, Tyler?
Here, I'll just read it off and we'll go over them. They start the year at home with Cleveland. I think
that could be a
win that game.
Oh, they're at home.
Yeah, they're at home. But, I mean, new offensive line, that could be a toss-up game. Cleveland could look extra motivated that game. But we'll count that as a win for now.
Thank you.
Then they go to Baltimore. They win that game because the moment they get a lead, Lamar can't throw.
Okay.
Home for the Chargers. Win.
Okay.
At Philadelphia. Easy win.
4-0.
Home for Buffalo. Coin flip, I guess you can call it.
Even though they shit all over them in the playoffs, but you got to give them 1 loss. Let's
make them 4-1 because they also could have got upset by the Chargers or something or Cleveland.
Yeah, they're losing one of those 4 games. We'll just go with that. We don't know which one, but they're going to lose one of them.
All right, we'll put them 4-1 now.
At Washington,
they could definitely lose that game.
At Tennessee,
they could lose that game.
Home for the Giants.
They'll win. So that's 5-3.
What everyone thought was going to be the Super Bowl last year. Home for Green Bay.
They're home?
Yeah, they probably beat them at home.
Yeah, 6-3.
At Las Vegas.
7-3. Oh, actually, wait a minute, Spread. Historically, how do the Raiders fare? I know they upset them.
They lost, I think, like 3 or 4 years in a row. They got swept, and then they upset them last year in Kansas City, did the famous lap around, right? Because I remember it was the Monday Night Football, and we were on opposite sides, and I remember you saying, hey, these guys are going to be pissed off,
Oh, yeah, we went heavy on that Chiefs in that second game, and they scared us for a little bit.
Yeah, and it was really close. They went 1-1 last year, but I think if you took like the last 3 or 4 years, they're 1-7.
All right, so
I'm gonna put both wins against the Raiders this year as wins.
All right, 8-3.
Home for Dallas. They're hanging 50 that game.
9-3.
Home for Denver.
10-3.
Home for Vegas. 11-3. At the Chargers on a Thursday night, so that's a short week.
11-4.
Home for Pittsburgh. 12-4.
12-4.
At Cincinnati. 13-4.
Oh, so actually that's 12-4. We were 1 game ahead. All right, so that's 12-4. What's the last game?
At Denver.
They could, I guess, theoretically, they could lose.
They could lose it, especially if they're sitting everybody.
Yeah,
if they clinched at that point.
So that's 12-5 right there. Yeah. So there's no value. Just take them to win Just take them to win the AFC and the Super Bowl. I think before you.
Or do a little 2-team parlay with them to win the division, and like the Titans to win their division. That'll get you above even money. That'll probably get you like plus 150.
If you have DraftKings, you could always take who will finish first in the division, who will finish second, like 1-2. If you think there's a pretty big edge on who you think will clearly be the second best team, then you could always bet it that way. That'll be plus money. That won't be minus money. But all right. So I bet them to win the Super Bowl. What do you guys think about taking them to win the bowl at plus 525?
Yeah, do it.
I don't mind it. I mean, they are the favorite on the board for one good reason. They've been there the last 2 years. It really wouldn't surprise me if they walk right into it for the third straight year. So, and you're getting them at 5-1. So I think you just have to play it. Any
player props on Mahomes for the season or anything you like to?
His yards are set at 5,050.5. I think that's a little too high.
Yeah, I would have to go under on that.
I'll tell you. You know what? I would be interested to know what they were last year, because if they're accounting that extra game and throwing more yards on that, I think spread's right. The odds that they don't have the AFC West in the bag and Mahomes plays that 17th game has to be bad. No spread?
I agree. And there's also just against teams like Cincinnati and maybe Las Vegas, if we're not as good, right? They're not going to run that same offense. They're going to hand the ball off.
We do it last year. The moment they get a lead, they try and run the ball more.
They were definitely trying to do that last year. Yeah,
because
they don't want them to get hit.
They're going to run the ball the moment they get a lead now. I'd go under on that.
Yeah,
I like that under a lot.
The only thing I want to check is what was that line last year, and how many yards did he finish with last year?
I can pull that up real quick.
Yeah, let me know. I would be interested to know what they set Mahomes' passing yard total at last year. If it was like 4,800, and this year it's 5,050. I think you have to go under, because the odds of him playing week 18 or week 17 is bad, man. It's really bad.
He had 4,700 last year.
Yeah, and he played 15 games.
Okay. Probably did he play the last game of the year, or was it because he got injured?
Let me double check that real quick. Because I think he might have missed one earlier in the year. Oh no, it was week 17. He didn't play.
That's a bet. That's a bet.
That's under. Yeah, that's under City right there.
That's a bet. Yeah. Where is that available?
DraftKings.
Yep, that's a bet. You should throw that on the sheet, D.
That's going on there when we get done.
100%. I'm betting that like as soon as we're done with the show. Let me write it in my notes. Actually.
And then as for they have receptions props. Kelsey set at 100.5 receptions. That's a lot. And Tyreek Hill set at 89.5.
Well, let's take a look at what the last 3 years each of them have done are.
Before I look it up, I think I would like the Hill under more, just because he's more of the big play guy, where Kelsey's more of the safety blanket. Last year, Hill had 87. 2019,
Kelsey had 105.
He had 58. In 2018, he had 87. 2017, he had 75. 2016, he had 61. So,
yeah,
seems about right, especially with the extra game.
Kelsey went 105 receptions, 97, and 103 in his last 3.
And he's got an extra game.
Yeah. He's got an extra game, and his targets in these 3 years, 145, 136, and 150. So
and with Sammy Watkins gone, he might get a little more. Right.
I was just thinking that, Fred. Yep. Yeah, so there's no value in taking the under there on either.
No. But I do have one prop I like. We talked about it before the show started.
What?
We talked last preview about how Dak pretty much has comeback player of the year locked up at 2-1.
Right.
A new name popped up on the list today that I've seen. I might butcher this when I pronounce it, but Laurent Duvernay Tardif a lineman for the Chiefs. He's also a doctor that opted out last year to fight COVID.
Oh, yeah.
If that guy plays all 17 weeks at plus 1,000, the NFL is going to walk that word to that man.
That's a great look.
I like the thought process behind that bet for sure.
I think that one's a solid bet at plus 1,000.
Yeah, I don't mind that because the thought process is sound.
The only 4 guys ahead of him on that list are Joe Burrow, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, and Dak.
What's up, Otter? What's up, Coop? Coop was saying Browns have one of the best offensive lines, too.
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
I think them to win. We'll get to that when we get to the AFC North preview, but I think them plus 150 to win that division is free money.
I mean, regular season Lamar is pretty good, though.
I don't trust the Ravens offense that much.
All right, so we agree we're done with the Chiefs?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, ain't much more to talk on there.
All right. Well, I guess we'll do spreads team. Last year, Raiders go 8-8. Gruden still coaching, even though he's coaching like 2010 knowledge about football, but he's still coaching.
That's generous.
That's generous.
I'd say it's like late 90s.
Late 90s. Fair enough. Last year, they go 14th in offensive DVOA, 28th defensively. Obviously, they were really bad last year. Taking a look at the offseason moves for the Raiders, they picked up an edge rusher from the Ravens that I can't even pronounce his name. So I'm just going to fly over that one. Devontae Booker's gone. Okay, thank you. Devontae Booker is gone, but they did get Kenyon Drake from the Cards. We spoke about last week. Nelson Aguilar is now a Patriot, but they did grab John Brown from the Bills and Willie Snead from Baltimore. As far as the offensive line, they re-signed Colton Miller, right, Spread, which was a big signing. They lost Rodney Hudson to the Cardinals. Trent Brown went to the Patriots. So a lot of moving parts on the offensive line in the offseason, and they were mostly departures from what I see. There weren't a ton of moves that were worth mentioning as far as the defense is concerned. As far as the draft, they grabbed the offensive tackle at Alabama. His name's like Leatherface or Leatherhorn, whatever, in the first round. I know that they grabbed the safety from TCU in the second round, but after that, I'm really not sure who they grabbed in the draft. I just remember those 2 guys. The season win total sits at 7 over -115. They are 22-1 to win the AFC West. And I'll start with Spread, your beloved Raiders. By honor.
Yeah, this is the easiest one for me to do. So the biggest questions on the Raiders, of course, are the revamped offensive line. You mentioned they lost Rodney Hudson, all-pro, one of the best centers in the league. He's on the Cardinals now. You left out Gabe Jackson, who's on the Seattle Seahawks now. He's the right guard.
Yeah.
And then right tackle Alex Leatherwood was drafted to replace Trent Brown. That is the easiest one to overcome, I would think, because I think Brown only played 4 or 5 games last year, so they were pretty used to playing without him. So the left side of the line, Colton Miller incognito should be good. Andre James is supposedly very athletic and physically looks the same as Hudson. The question is, will he be able to do the same leadership that Hudson did? We know the center is the leader of the line, changes the protections and things of that. So getting a new guy in there, of course, is a concern, but physically he seems to be just as good. Denzel Good, right guard. Like I said, most teams don't have the best right guard. And then supposedly Leatherwood's looked really good in camp. I liked his tape. I felt that, some Raiders fans felt he was a reach, but they felt that same way about Colton Miller, too. And if it works out like Miller, it should be fine. Then we talk about the defense. Yeah, Yannick Ngakoue, I think is how you pronounce it, should help with the edge rush there. And then they also added not much, actually, on the defensive end on the free agent side. Trevon Morwig's going to try and fix up this secondary, which has actually been the defense has been the weakness of the team. They don't get enough pressure, so that's where Ngakoue will come in. And Cleveland Farrell's got to step up. First-round pick, 4th overall in 2019. They're going to need him to do good. Same year, Max Crosby, he's been great. They added Solomon Thomas from the Niners. Interested to see how he works out. He was supposed to come in the middle. Then they're saying he's a little too small for the middle. So they acquired Quentin Jefferson, and I think Solomon Thomas is going to go more to the edge there as a smaller guy. KJ Hunter was rumored to come here as well, has not yet signed, but that would be a big pickup for them with a weak linebacking core. And then the last thing I remember, our guy Sumner Hutchinson brought this up last season and really made me aware of it. Every single year with Gruden, they get out to a nice little start, 5-2, 6-2, 5-3, and then they do terrible the second half. And a lot of times in the first half, they win a lot of games as underdogs, and in the second half, they're losing a lot as favorites. So for whatever reason, Gruden grinds his teams down. I think too intense practices, and they just seem to fizzle out at the end of the year. So that's something to keep in mind, too, when you're handicapping this team. Don't get too excited if they get off to a hot start.
All right, Tyler, before we go over the schedule, just general thoughts on the Raiders.
I mean, I like how their offense is built. They were ranked 8th last year in total offense. The defense is what needs help. I mean, 25th ranked defense. If you can get that down into the top 15, I think they're easily stealing the playoff spot.
28th in DVOA, too, last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not going to cut it when you have a top 10 offense.
Yeah.
They need to get more production out of Ruggs. I like some of the other options they put around them with John Brown, Willie Snead. And we all know Darren Waller is going to be the key to their offense. Another nice pickup, I think, is Kenyon Drake, because he's basically the polar opposite of Josh Jacobs. He's more of a speed guy where Josh Jacobs is going to beat you up in between the tackles. I think they should run some of those sets where you put them both on the field next to Carr, because then the defense doesn't know what to prepare for if Jacobs is coming up the middle or if Drake's going to catch something out in the flat and take off. So I think that's a way to help the offense. I mean, we've seen Carr put up 4,000 yards over the past 3 seasons, so we should still see him do that.
I'll tell you what, Spread, if this offensive line plays well, they have weapons, man, to move the football for sure.
And with the Chargers learning a new system under a new coach, I'd say as of right now, they're the second best team in the AFC West.
Wow.
I mean, I mean, I don't mind Kenyon Drake. I think he's all right. But, I mean, Waller, Ruggs, Smith, and Snead, that's solid.
And John Brown.
And John,
And one thing to mention, if you guys are playing fantasy, especially the season log, Brian Edwards has just been absolutely destroying camp.
Touchdown guy right there.
He was a 3rd-round pick from last year, didn't get a lot of run last year, and supposedly he's by far the standout star.
I mean, John Brown was the best wide receiver that Buffalo had for years.
Until Stephon Diggs got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But late round flyer, if you don't know who to draft, in the last couple rounds, like round 14 and 15, take a chance on Brian Edwards.
I like that.
Just talking this through, the entire year for this team, I know that the defense has to play well, but it's really, even for them to be competitive, it's all going to come down to that offensive line. If that offensive line can give Carr time, they're going to score the necessary points to at least be competitive. And then it's going to be, can the defense play well enough to, make a playoff push? But that offensive line's really going to have to play well just for them to be competitive before you even start talking about the defense.
A big key for that defense is going to be that rookie safety they got out of TCU, that Trayvon Moehrig, or however you say his last name, because he's going to play opposite of Jonathan Abrams, and they're basically going to use him as the signal caller on the defense, so they can move Abrams up into the box more and use him as a blitzer. So that'll take some of the load off of his back.
And I don't know if it's just smoke or they're just trying to fire their team up. But Carr said he's the best coverage safety he's thrown against on the Raiders in 4 years in training camp. So supposedly they finally upgraded the safety position. But I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, until we see it on the field.
Yeah, because Carl Joseph, Jonathan Abrams. How many guys were supposed to come in here and do what Charles Woodson did, and ever since he's left, they've never been able to replace him.
Gun to your head, Spread over the win total, over 7 wins.
I think they're going to be 7-10. I think that win total is perfect.
You guys want to do the schedule rundown? See where we end up?
Yeah, let's do it. But I think the number's right.
All right, they start the year in Baltimore,
Probably
0-1. At Pittsburgh,
loss.
home for Miami. At the
Miami
Chargers.
beat them in Las Vegas last year.
Yeah, I think Miami beats them.
They'll win. They'll win at the Chargers though. They always win in LA. They'll have home field advantage.
Yeah, at the Chargers, that's a win.
That's a win.
So we'll be putting them at 1-3 right there.
Yeah.
Home for Chicago. I think they could win that game.
That's a coin flip to me.
At Denver.
Coin flip again. We'll make them 1-1 off those two. I think they're both coin flips.
Home for Philadelphia. Win.
They win that one.
At the New York Giants. That could be a tough game.
The coin flip only because they're not very good on the East Coast.
Yep. Home for Kansas City. Loss.
Yeah.
So that's 3 wins so far we gave them.
Home for Cincinnati. There's 4 wins.
Yep.
At Dallas. I think they could run all over Dallas's defense. That could be 5.
Just give me the over in that game.
Give me the over.
For sure.
Over,
This could be at
first half,
58, and
first
we're going to be
quarter.
betting the over.
Yeah, seriously.
Home for Washington. That's another loss. At Kansas City, another loss. At Cleveland, another loss. Home for Denver. They probably win that one.
Yeah, they'll beat Denver in Allegiant.
That's 5 wins.
At Indianapolis. That all depends on who's hurt for the Colts and who's not at that point in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they finish the year off at home against the Chargers.
I mean,
Under or pass?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we got the 5
That's
wins.
a tough schedule.
Maybe you throw them an extra coin flip game. That's 6 wins. I mean, they're still under.
Yeah, that's a really tough schedule.
Coop said, that's not a hard schedule if all things go right. As Tyler said, that's really a tough schedule. All right. So any player props, anything that season long props that you liked here, Tyler?
I would take Derek Carr's over on passing yards. It's 4,050.5. He's cleared 4,000 yards in his last 3 seasons. Now he gets an extra game.
Yeah.
I'd take that over.
And spread. I mean, when was the last time that they had this many weapons on the team?
No, I agree. I love that play there too, Tyler. And I think not only that, you're going to get some more continuity. I think Ruggs is going to take a nice leap here. Interesting thing, like he didn't have a lot of statistics last year, but the team, their winning percentage was a lot better when he played, just showing the amount of gravity that he had, pulling defenses, pulling other corners, allowing those guys to get open. You made a good point. I think maybe John Brown might even – I was disappointed to lose Aguilar, but John Brown might be better. I mean, obviously continuity can be an issue.
As long as he's healthy, I think he's definitely better than Aguilar.
Yeah. So, and then, like I said, from what I heard, Brian Edwards is everything that they wanted out of that pick. So I think he goes over 4,000 yards. I like that play, Tyler.
What, the inconsistency on offense? Offensive line wise?
That's going to be an issue, but I still like the play. I think that I think he's going to get there no matter what.
Especially with that tough schedule. I mean, they could be playing a lot of these games from behind to where he's forced to throw the ball.
Yeah. And the defense usually gives up the points pretty fast, too.
All right, so
back on the field.
Do you think this team could finish second? Because I know DraftKings has that like first place, second place forecast in the division, and let me just take.
Tyler and I disagree here. I think the Chargers are better. I think the Raiders are the third.
I think the Chargers are a better overall team on paper, but running a new coach and a new offensive coordinator out there, like taking some time to get used to it. To where the Raiders are just kind of plugging in new guys in the same system.
I think
they could finish second.
Yeah, but it's like, do you want like a new coach or an old coach that sucks? Like, I'd rather have the new coach.
I agree, but it's still working in that system.
I think I would agree with spread. I think the Chargers probably finish the second best, but just looking at the odds, bro, KC and the Chargers 1-2 is plus 120.
Mm-hmm.
KC and Denver 1-2 is plus 120.
Wow.
KC and the Raiders are 8-1.
See, I think the Raiders are better than Denver because I think Denver's.
Yeah, I do too. I'm surprised by that.
Problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus 800 for the KC. I mean, I don't think that the discrepancy is that big. I mean, that's worth a shot at plus 800. That the Raiders could finish second somehow. Yeah. I think that's probably worth a shot. Yeah. All right. So we're done. We're done here. Denver Broncos last year go 5-11. Fangio still the head coach. They had the 30th ranked offense last year, 13th ranked defense. So far, all season moves for the Broncos. We'll start with probably the most important one on the team. Drew Lock is QB1 on the depth chart, right? Mm-hmm. But my question for you guys, which you can answer when we get there, has he shown himself to be better than Teddy Bridgewater? Because
I think Teddy will start week 1.
All right, wow. So Teddy comes over from Carolina, and you guys can talk about that when we get there. So we have the quarterback acquisition. They lost Philip Lindsay, who I really like, man. He's in Houston now. No wide out moves, no tight end moves that really matter. Almost no offensive line moves other than retaining their free agents. The defensive front seven didn't make a bunch of moves, but the secondary picked up a couple of solid corners. They get Kyle Fuller from the Bears. They get Ronnie Darby from Washington. And that's pretty much the Broncos offseason in a nutshell. They did pretty well in the draft. They got Surtain, obviously, the corner in round 1. Javonte Williams, who I loved at North Carolina, the running back from UNC. Aside from that, they picked up a couple safeties up at the tail end of the draft. Don't remember what the round 4 and 5, what they did in round 4 or 5. But the Broncos are about plus 600 to win the AFC West. Season win total sits at 8.5 over minus 120. T, I'll start with you before we go to spread. Thoughts on Denver this year?
I mean, if this team could just stay healthy, I think they could be a solid team. I mean, last year I was kind of pegging them as my team to be like the breakout team. They sneak into the playoffs. And then by week 1, they were just cluster injuries everywhere, their main guys. So they were just screwed before they even came out of the gate. But as for their quarterback play, their new GM was with Teddy Bridgewater in Minnesota. That could be another reason why he ended up in Denver. And also, Fangio's this is his year to show it if he wants to keep his job. What better quarterback do you want than a guy that's going to protect the ball and not go gunslinging on you like Drew Lock and lose you a game than Teddy Bridgewater, who's just going to play conservative, not get crazy. And we've seen him win a lot of games.
I think the verdict is still very much out on Drew Lock. You don't agree, Spread?
Yeah, I disagree with Tyler here. I think that Drew Lock starts. I think that if you bring Teddy Bridgewater to start at week 1, you're basically telling the team, all right, best case scenario, we lose in the wild card round, right? Because he's not going to take you past that. At least with Drew Lock, you can sell to the fan base, hey, this guy's got a lot of potential. You know, he was a high draft pick. We're going to let him sling, and technically his upside is higher. Where I do agree with Tyler is probably by week 5 or 6, Bridgewater will take over because I don't believe in Drew Lock. I think Bridgewater probably is better, but I think that they're going to have to go with the high upside guy at first, and I think that might put them into a hole.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, maybe Drew Lock is better than Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think he's shown it on the field so far, personally, but yeah, I mean, I buy everything that you basically just said. Anything else, T, before spread?
I mean, I'll just want to counter argue that a little bit. If this was Fangio's first or second year, I could see Locke playing those first couple weeks, but he's on the hot seat. If you play him for 4 to 5 weeks and you're 0-4, 0-5, by the time Bridgewater sees the field, you probably aren't the coach. That's why I think he starts week 1. If he wants to keep that job, you run him out there week 1.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll see how it turns out. So we'll see who's really pulling the strings there, the GM or the coach. Because if I'm the GM, you got to get I got to get the young kid out there.
Yeah. And their secondary, I mean, they've had some troubles there in the last couple of years, but picking up Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby and drafting Patrick Surtain, I mean, that could be a solid secondary with Justin Simmons behind them. We just got to see how that all plays out and see how many of these guys come into the season injured, because that's something they've dealt with for the past 2 years is injuries before the season's even started.
Otter says Cortland Sutton is an under the radar return. Yeah, I agree with that. I like Cortland.
Yep. Their receiver room, I honestly think, is one of the best in the league. With Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, and you add in tight end Noah Fant, I think that's one of the top receiving corps in the league.
Yeah, they're solid for sure.
I also think for fantasy purposes, I think Javonte Williams overtakes Melvin Gordon as the starter halfway through the year.
Wow.
I would love to pick him up in season-long leagues.
Got it.
You think that's a hot take spread?
Yeah, I think Melvin Gordon's pretty good. And he looked pretty good in camp, and they were trying to work him into the passing game. So, I haven't heard anything out there. But Tyler knows these younger kids a lot better than I do.
I mean, Javonte Williams was so good at North Carolina. I think it's really going to come down to what did they pay for Melvin Gordon, I think is probably in the end.
Could be a situation last year like with the Bills. Didn't J.K. Dobbins take over around week 12?
Or that's the Ravens.
I mean the Ravens, I'm sorry.
I can see.
And the Bills would have been the same with, what was that kid's name? Zach Moss?
Zach Moss and Devin Singletary.
Yeah. Where the rookie takes over towards the end. Yeah, I could see that happening. My basic breakdown of this team is the wide receiver room is probably, like you said, it's up there with the Raiders. But other than that, this is like the opposite team. I have concerns about the offensive line. I think the Raiders have a much better offensive line. I have concerns about the quarterback. And I think this is going to be an awesome defense. So I think the Raiders are going to lose a bunch of games 35-31. I think this team's going to lose a bunch of games 17-14. This is just a fantastic defense. You look at the roster, and it's just stacked. If they're able to stay healthy, they're going to stop everybody.
It's just staying healthy with this defense.
Yeah, but they're still not going to be able to score, and we've seen it before where defenses will turn on the offenses when they're averaging 15 points a game, giving up, and they're 3-6. So that could be an issue for this team. Quarterback's got a great opportunity here because I think getting to 24, 25 is going to win you a lot of games.
That was basically the story of last year. I mean, how many times did JJ have a Denver Broncos under on the spreadsheet last year that ended up cashing because they just couldn't score. They were able to stop teams, but they couldn't score any points.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you one thing this team's going to be good at doing if Teddy Bridgewater's starting.
What?
Covering the spread. Bridgewater 34-13 against the spread in his career.
Teddy covers.
Yes. All right, so are we done with the Broncos?
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to touch on there.
Yeah, let's talk about the Chargers since we disagree about that one.
All right, so 7-9 last year. That was with Anthony Lynn, right? Now they have Brandon Staley. If you don't know who that is, he was the defensive coordinator from the Rams last year. The year before that, I think he was the linebacker coach in Denver. I have to double check that, but I think he was. So he's gone really far in a 2-year span. Now the head coach of the Chargers. Last year, they were 14th in offensive DVOA, 28th in defense. They were in so many games that they ended up losing because either A, they turned the ball over late, or they had the lead late and couldn't get the final stop when they needed it. That was the story of the Chargers last year. But they also had the worst head coach that we've seen in a while, maybe Adam Gase aside. Like they're probably neck and neck, right? As far as the offseason moves, Hunter Henry gone. We spoke about that last week. He's on the Patriots now. But they do have Jared Cook from the Saints. He'll start. They grab Lindsey. They grabbed the center from the Packers because Pouncey's an unrestricted free agent. They didn't bring him back. They picked up a starting right tackle from the Steelers this year. Can't think of his name, but he's going to be starting for the Chargers this year. The defensive moves in the offseason, Melvin Ingram gone. He's on the Steelers. They lose Denzel Perryman also. And I think those were the only two moves that really actually mattered in the offseason in terms of people that they lost or brought in. In the draft, obviously, they got Slater, stud lineman from Northwestern. In the second round, they grab Asante Samuel's kid, who is also a cornerback. And then they picked up a couple weapons in round 3, Josh Palmer and Trey McKitty. And I forget who they picked up in round 6 and 7. I'm not sure. Current odds for them to win the AFC West, plus 450. Their season win total is 9.5 under minus 135 currently at DraftKings. I'll start with you, T. Chargers, what do you think?
I love getting Anthony Lynn out of here and bringing in a guy that's going to establish a winning culture. Also probably improves the defense because just like you said, we've seen this team lose by 1 possession so many times last year with Herbert putting up video game numbers when they should have been winning those games.
Yep.
Now, picking up the offensive lineman from the Steelers, Matt Filer, I don't think that's a great pickup because I watched him get beat all last year and also just get false start calls every play.
Oh, that was the guy from the Steelers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think he could be a problem on the offensive line. Also, they banked a lot on Hunter Henry and their second string tight end, I believe it was Virgil Green, to be extra blockers for that offensive line just because how bad it was. Neither of those guys were on the roster this year. They picked up Jared Cook. We know Jared Cook ain't a blocking tight end.
True.
They're banking on their rookie tight end to be their blocking tight end. That's playing with fire. But, I mean, and also they picked up a new offensive coordinator who spent 12 years under Sean Payton. So I think that offense could take a jump, but I don't think it happens in 1 year. I think maybe the next couple of years we'll see it improve more and more.
I mean, that offense was so good to begin with.
Yeah. But, I mean, losing that tight end is going to be big because they basically had 2 extra blockers to help him. Now both those guys are gone.
And Henry was a big part of the offense last year.
Yep. I mean, Keenan Allen's still a threat. Austin Eckler is going to be great out of the backfield catching passes. I honestly think Justin Jackson's the better running back overall, running the ball. I think Eckler's the better catching back, but they'll probably start Eckler. And I mean, outside of that, I mean, if this is another team. We see this team get ravaged with injuries every year.
Sure.
They always have a top 5 team on paper, and by the time the season starts, we have half the names crossed out.
Yep.
So, I mean, if they can stay healthy, I think they go over that 9. But the moment injuries start to happen, this team just falls off a cliff.
I think it's very telling for the Chargers in years to come that they went 7-9 with a horrific defense and just about the worst head coach that you can have, and they still went 7-9. So I think it's just a ton of upside this year for the Chargers. Spread, what do you think about the Chargers?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right on the head. What a perfect cue. When you take out Anthony Lynn, it doesn't matter who you replace him with, you're getting better. But you got this bright young kid, Brandon Staley, right, coming off the Sean McVay tree. I'll be honest, I thought that he was going to be a downgrade from Wade Phillips. He was not. He took that same defense, and I thought they were going to fall off. He made them as good, if not better. On the offensive side of the ball, now calling the plays will be Joe Lombardi off the Sean Payton tree. So, hey, if you got offensive mind, right, if it's that from Sean McVay, I'll take a Sean Payton guy, right, a guy that's been in that organization, seen how he's run things, now gets his chance to call the plays after learning all those things. I think it's going to be such an upgrade. Tyler touched on another great thing. Of course, that this team needs to stay healthy, and that's been an issue, right? I mean, last year, didn't their doctor stab their starting quarterback and puncture his lung? So, I mean, there's obviously issues here with the training staff, but I think they have a lot of talent on defense, a lot of talent on offense, and this kid, Rashawn Slater, is supposedly just destroying guys in camp. Like Boza and the other rushers are just saying, this guy's good, we hit on the pick, let's go Herbert, you're not going to have to worry about your blind side. So I do like the Chargers here. I think this coaching, we're going to see how much coaching really matters in the NFL when we're watching this team this year.
Man, I don't want to say it's a leap to take that over 9.5 wins because I do think that they can go 10-7, but I don't know. There's just something inside of me that says just give them one more year before you really start going after them in the futures market. But
That makes sense. You establish the system, and then you can see the holes in the roster. If you pull up the depth chart, you can see the holes. It's not fully laid out. Like Tyler said, Feeler as your right guard. We talked about some weaker right guards, but this is a weak right guard. I wouldn't be surprised if the 5th-round draft pick ends up taking his job there. And then on defense, they lost some linebackers. That was a strength. It's now a weakness. Let's see if these guys like Kenneth Murray can come in and step up and replace him. But just a couple more good drafts, maybe another good free agent. You could be right. It could be 1 year away.
Yeah. That's basically where I'm at. I think that we're going to have a lot of opportunities to back this team during the season this year. But in terms of futures or season win totals, I think you just stay away, back them when you can week to week. And then if we see them take the step that we all think they should take this year, then maybe we start looking to back them in the futures market next year.
All right.
All right. Any season-long props, Tyler?
They have Herbert's yards set at 44.50.5. With the running backs room they have, I think this is going to be the heaviest passing team of them all. I think he goes over that number, and you could bet most passing yards for the season. Herbert's 12-1. I think that's worth a shot. We seen him throwing the ball 50-plus times in multiple games last year. I think he's going to be throwing it just as much.
Have the most passing yards.
Yep.
Well, last year he threw for 43-30.
And he didn't start till like week 3 or week 4.
Yeah.
And what's his number?
44.50.5.
With an extra game? Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind the over there at all.
Yeah, I like over, and I like him to lead the league in passing yards at 12-1. They have the favorite at that at Mahomes at 310, and I think they're going to be more run heavy this year. So I think Herbert's definitely worth a shot there.
Yeah, I don't mind that. All right, the NFC West. Last year, the Rams go 10-6. McVay still there, obviously. They were in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive DVOA. They were 4th in defense with Brandon Staley, who we were just talking about. Potentially the biggest offseason move in the NFL this year. Matt Stafford has finally been saved from the Detroit Lions. He's shipped to the Rams for Jared Goff. And, McVay basically said, thanks for the Super Bowl appearance, but now I want to win one. So, aside from picking up Stafford, the Rams lose Cam Akers to a season-ending injury this year, which is super unfortunate. But I think they could still overcome it. I think Henderson's solid, man. So, I would much rather, because we'll get into it, but I have the Rams every way you can bet them. And I would much rather them have Cam Akers, but I think Henderson's good enough to fill the role. I assume that they're probably going to try to pick up another veteran running back to help Stafford. They let go of Josh Reynolds, who I like a lot as a receiver. That's unfortunate. For some reason, they pick up a washed Deshaun Jackson from Philly. Why? I can't even imagine why. They lose Gerald Everett to the Seahawks. Offensive line, they retain the majority of the starters aside from Blythe, who went to the Chiefs. On the defense, they lose Mike Brockers to the Lions. They lose, I can't think of his name, but they lose the edge rusher that they had to the 49ers. They lose John Johnson, the safety, to the Browns. They lose the cornerback Troy Hill to the Browns. They did not have a first-round draft pick, but they did take the receiver out of Louisville in the second round. I think his name was Atwell. They grabbed the linebacker out of South Carolina in round 3, Ernest Jones, who was actually pretty good there. Don't remember much of their draft after that. I know they took a defensive lineman from Texas A&M. Forget his name. As far as the futures and season win total markets, they are plus 190 to win the NFC West. I'm on it. Their current season win total is 10.5, under -140 right now at DK. Spread, I'll start with you. I also have them to win the NFC and to win the Super Bowl. I think I got them at 13. I want to say 13-1 to win the Super Bowl. Let me just check real quick. They are currently 14-1. Okay, so 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. And I got them at plus 700 to win the NFC this year. Spread, thoughts on the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. This is just such a fantastic team. And Tyler and I have to appreciate it, right? They've taken the NBA team building model, right? Trade away all your draft picks for stars, front load your salary cap with a bunch of stars, and then just fill in with a bunch of, the mid-level or minimum salary guys, right? And I was skeptical that this approach would work in the NFL, but Sean McVay and crew have proved me wrong. This has worked fantastic, because they have, I don't want to get into ranking because it's so tough in between players, but between Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, I think that it's safe to say 2 of the top 10 defenders in the NFL, right? And then they can just build from there. But when you got a guy with Aaron Donald, right? I see pictures where there's 4 Miami Dolphins blocking Donald, and then the other 2 guys on the 3-man rush are going one-on-one. So, best player in the league, best corner in the league. Then you add in a quarterback that I love that I think is underrated from playing on the most terrible franchise, a franchise that caused 2 Hall of Famers to just retire early because they're so bad they just can't be there. Now it's his time to shine. And then the last thing I want to mention about this team, how did they manage to get Raheem Morris? I was so impressed with the job he did with Atlanta last year. I was all over fading Atlanta, and then that fade train stopped the second Raheem Morris turned over. He took that defense, took them from historically bad to average, which made the team pretty good because, of course, they had Matt Ryan. Now he gets to work alongside Sean McVay. I think it's to be fantastic. We know Sean McVay gives his defensive coordinators full autonomy. I don't even know how much he even talks to them. So Morris is going to be able to go in there, build that scheme. He's got way more talent than he did in Atlanta. If he can build an average defense out of the Atlanta thing, I think this could be a top 5 defense. Top 5 defense plus Matt Stafford. I love your futures. Take them to win the NFC. Take them to win the Super Bowl with those numbers. I like your bet.
Before I go to Tyler, they were the number 4 defense last year. Yeah. And I expect that at the very worst, they'll be that good or maybe better. Now, This is a competitive division. There are 3 teams in this division, I think, that legitimately have a chance to win the NFC West. But Spread and I are on the fucking Rams train, and Tyler's on the 49ers train. So, Tyler, thoughts on the Rams?
Spread, I love the fact that you brought up that they're top-loading this team and just kind of filling in the spots with just, no names.
Yeah.
It works in the NBA when you're loading top 5 guys onto a team, when you're only sending 5 guys out there. What happens when these guys start to get hurt? We seen 2 years ago the Rams were locked and loaded, looked like Super Bowl contenders. Injuries happened. They fell off a cliff.
But this Tyler, don't you think when you're betting a future, you just got to take your chances and just know that if guys go down, you'll lose the future? What can you do?
Yeah, I agree there. But looking at what this team lost from last year to this year, not even just players. He lost 7 assistants on that coaching staff. That's a lot. Now he's got to try and replace that all on the fly when we've seen that coaching staff be together for, the past 3 years, outside of Wade Phillips leaving.
That's a fair point.
So it's like Raheem Morris probably keeps the defense chugging along, but it's like the offensive line. Whitworth is 40 years old. Havenstein's coming off a knee surgery. And outside of that, you didn't pick up any new guys, so you're banking on your backups to protect a quarterback that we know it only takes a couple hits and he's hurt. I think
the Rams could easily finish dead last in this division.
I don't think he's wrong because they are a Matthew Stafford injury away from having to play John Walford. How do you think that's going to go?
But I don't think you can bet futures on deciding whether or not your starting quarterback is going to go down. That's my only.
I see where you're coming from, but I just don't like the fact that the offensive line is old and beat up. They have really no backups because now their backups are their starters. And outside of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, what was their offense from last year? Cam Akers is already hurt. Henderson's all right. I wouldn't peg him as good as Akers, but outside of that, I think his team's going to have some troubles.
You think that this team is going to have some troubles if they stay healthy?
If they stay healthy, then no. But they're an injury away from having to play a guy that shouldn't be on the field.
But what team in the NFL isn't an injury away from being terrible?
A lot of these teams have second stringers that can still play. This Rams team's going from a first stringer to a practice squad guy because they have so much money locked up in cap hits and cap holds from trades. I don't see it.
But don't you think it's basically a foregone conclusion if your starting quarterback goes down for the year in the NFL, you're basically fucking cooked unless you're back.
Tyler's setting that up because if you're the 49ers and Garoppolo goes down, you're better.
Table for me like it was Thanksgiving dinner, Jay.
I mean, all right. So you don't like the Rams?
I mean, I think they're a good team. I just think they're like, I don't like playing the fact that I can be 2 injuries away from everything being dead with my bets. Even if they're futures and they're at nice prices, 2 injuries, this team could be dead in the water.
I mean, Coop, like, this is just fucking blasphemy. If the Rams are healthy for 17 games, they will not finish that last night. They will not finish that last in this.
Those are just my worries there with that team, Jay. A lot of guys that have already been banged up, a lot of guys that are old. It's like a ticking time bomb waiting to get injured.
All right, so any season-long player props that you like?
Stafford's yards are set at 45, 95 and a half. So basically 4,600. If he stays healthy, he probably goes over that number. Because I know you don't like the Deshaun Jackson signing, but putting him and Tutu Atwell opposite of Robert Woods and Kupp, who are more like possession receivers, and now you're just running speedsters down the field, that could open up some offense. And we know he loves to throw the ball deep. So those 2 guys could be catching 60-yard bombs. But, I mean, outside of Stafford's yards, I got nothing on the props for this team.
Coop said they can go 0-6 in this division. I could wake up tomorrow with a clip. I mean, it's not going to happen. I would love to know what the Rams' record since McVay's been there in the division every year.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know what their records have been in the division.
So you want to touch on next?
Let's do your team.
Or you want to do my team?
Let's do it.
All right, 49ers 6-10. Let me know. Let me know what that is, Fred. 49ers 6-10 last year, right? Head coach Shanahan, obviously, but last year the team was decimated by injuries pretty much the entire year, and never really had a legitimate run at that division. They were 20th in offensive DVOA, 6th in defense, which is surprising considering how badly. I think actually that's 16th in defense, not 6th, considering how badly they were hit with injuries. The fact that they finished middle of the pack on defense is still actually pretty solid. Off-season moves, they sent Tevin Coleman to the Jets and Jerick McKinnon to the Chiefs. Said that earlier, but they did sign Wayne Gallman from the Giants. That's pretty much it for the running backs room. Kendrick Bourne went to the Patriots, so he's gone. But they got a dusty Mohamed Sanu from Detroit. Alex Mack, who was the center from the Falcons last year, he'll start at center for the Niners this year. So, like Spread said, Solomon Thomas was sent to the Raiders to play D-line for them. And Witherspoon, the cornerback, was sent to the Seahawks. Biggest draft pick this year, and one that's going to start a ton of controversy from like the first interception that Jimmy G throws. Is they draft Trey Lance with the third pick in the draft it was. Shanahan had to love the kid, obviously, for them to take him third when they already had a quarterback on the roster that took them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But aside from Lance, they drafted Aaron Banks, the guard out of Notre Dame in round 2, who was good. They grabbed Trey Sermon, who was rock solid at Ohio State in that backfield, and Ambry Thomas, who I think played both corner and safety at Michigan. I could be wrong there, but I think he played both positions. Looking at their odds in the future market, they are currently 10 cents cheaper to win the NFC West. They are plus 180. The Rams were plus 190. And their current win total sits at exactly what the Rams was, 10.5 under minus 130. So they have odds almost identical in every market to the Rams, who we just discussed. Tyler, I'll start with you. How good do you expect the 49ers to be this year? Should they stay healthy?
Yeah, should they stay healthy? We've seen last year they were ravaged by injuries. Everyone on this team was hurt at least once. But I think they have big injury regression. The defense you were right, Jay. They were ranked 6th last year with all those injuries. They're going to be top 3 if they're healthy.
Was it still 6th?
It was still 6th.
Yeah, so that's really good considering.
Now they're bringing Nick Bosa back. The only worry I have for their defense is their cornerback room is a little, like, I wouldn't call it good. I wouldn't call it bad. You're kind of banking on Jason Verrett to be there, which is not a good sign. He's been hurt a lot. But outside of that, I mean, they're going to be able to run the ball. They have 4 to 5 running backs that they'll just interchange like they've always done.
You can't overstate Kittle being healthy again.
Yeah, Kittle will be healthy again, so that gives Jimmy G his security blanket for however long he plays.
Do they still have Debo?
Debo's still there. Brandon Ayuk is still there. So they still have tons of weapons. And when I think they eventually make that quarterback flip maybe halfway through the year, even if Jimmy G's healthy. And I think what happens then is Trey Lance can run the ball. That's just going to open up this offense even more for Kyle Shanahan.
Let me ask you, what if Jimmy G is 6-1 through 7 weeks?
Well, I mean, if he's playing that good, then you just kind of ride it out.
Right.
But if he's showing holes in his game and, like, you lose one because he missed the ball downfield like the Super Bowl, it's like maybe you get the kid in there and give him a shot.
Right.
I think he's going to be great. The running's just going to open up that offense. Ayuk loves to get downfield and catch balls, so does Debo. This kid will put him 60 yards down the field for him, to where Jimmy G can't do that. I think they're just going to power through. I think they'll win 11 to 12 games, and I think they'll ride that defense in the running game to the Super Bowl.
I didn't see enough of Trey Lance in college to really know what he's about. But, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be really good. I think that if they stay healthy, they're going to be really good and contend for the NFC West. I don't think that they're better or worse if they stay healthy, probably, than the Rams. But if they keep Jimmy G, I think that Stafford's the difference maker. And that's why I would rather be rocking with the Rams with Stafford than the 49ers with either Jimmy G or Trey Lance, because nobody does what Patrick Mahomes did. Rookies just don't go in there and light the fucking world on fire. Like, all rookies always need a year under their belt before you really start to see what they're about. So I think that even if Trey Lance comes in and is good, he's not going to be anywhere near what his potential probably is, and he's not going to be better than a healthy Matt Stafford. So that's why I do think that they're really, really good. But I give the edge to the Rams, of course, assuming that Matt Stafford's going to stay healthy. That's why I give them the edge. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they're going to be very good. Spread, thoughts on the Niners?
All right, quick 49ers breakdown. Deebo Samuels looked fantastic in camp. Came in about 10 pounds lighter than last year and has been absolutely setting these corners on fire. But let's talk about this corners. This is going to be an issue here for the team. We know that Richard Sherman was on the downside. Maybe won't miss his physical ability. They're going to miss his leadership there in the secondary. They're starting Jason Verrett, who's I don't know. I'm not really that high on him. And Dante Johnson. I think that's a definite downgrade there. So how are they going to offset the weakness in the secondary? And that's through pass rush. Again, though, from that Super Bowl team, this is not the same defensive line. They traded DeForest Buckner last year for, I don't know if it was a draft pick, but I think it was a draft pick to acquire Javon Kinlaw. Probably a smart move long term, but Kinlaw is not near where DeForest Buckner was in 2019. I don't expect that next year. And then they also lost Solomon Thomas. He's over in Las Vegas now. He was the weakest member of the defensive line, but still, I think he's better than Zach Kerr. That's going to be a little downgrade there as well. And then let's go back to it. What comes down to it, this quarterback situation. And from what I'm hearing, because obviously local team, KMBR, that's the radio station, they talk 49ers 24/7. It seems to be an Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation like you alluded to earlier, Jay, where you look in practice. The whole team knows that Trey Lance is better. Everybody knows that Trey Lance is better. But he doesn't read defenses as well. He doesn't run the offense as well. So while Trey Lance is getting all these highlights that are showing up on my Twitter feed every day where he's making just these incredible throws. If you look at the stats from the practice sessions, Jimmy G's still a little more effective. I expect him to start the year. And like you said, if he does well, I don't think they make the switch this year. I think they'll let him ride one more year. Of course, though, that's such an ace to have in your pocket, though. If you ever get into trouble, I don't think any team has someone on the bench they could bring off, if they start slow or things aren't going well, than the San Francisco 49ers. So what a great position for Kyle Shanahan to be in, to develop this guy on his own time, not have to put him in right away. So, yeah, I mean, Tyler's got a point. I'm with you. I prefer the Rams over them, but this team's got great potential, and, would be that surprised if they ended up winning the NFC West? I wouldn't. I like the Rams a little bit more, but this is an open and shut. This is a talented San Francisco 49ers team.
I think we're basically splitting hairs with these two top teams in the West. I think these two are way ahead of the next two we're going to talk about. So, I mean, in the price of show, would you say it was plus 180 and plus 190?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we're just splitting hairs at this point with these two teams.
Yeah, I think the only identifiable edge that I see between these teams is the quarterback, really. That's it for me, anyway. But, yeah, I agree. I think they're both really, 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 really good. So, all right, any season-long props you like for the Niners?
Actually, you talked about it before, too. Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa's back. 11-1.
I don't mind it.
I think he can just roughhouse everyone in that division and just get to the quarterback tons. Eric Armstead's going to draw double teams all the time. He was their leading sack leader 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. And that just helps Nick Bosa out a ton. And
I think value for sure.
They have D Ford on that defensive line, too.
Yep.
He'll be coming off the other side. So, I mean, there's just so many guys that are going to be after this quarterback. Nick Bosa is going to sneak in there so many times. I even like him as comeback player of the year, too.
Because
the only problem with that is you got a couple guys ahead of him that I think can steal the award.
That's what I said last week. I don't think that if he's fully healthy and back, the odds are bigger discrepancy than the talent level to the people that are in front of him, I think, defensively for Defensive Player of the Year. So, yeah, I don't mind that. I think that's worth a little shot for sure.
And then other than that, you know where I stand. San Fran division winner plus 190.
What about
14-1?
What about Lance to be the offensive rookie of the year? If he gets in, like you think he's going to play like week 2.
No, I don't think week 2. I'd say he gets like a Tua treatment from last year, maybe like week 7 or 8 he shows up. And at that point, he would have to light the league on fire to win rookie of the year.
Yeah, at that point, he wouldn't even be eligible.
I think betting him to win Rookie of the Year is kind of one of them ones you wait, and if he gets announced to play, that's when you jump on him because you don't want to bet him at 7-1 right now, and by week 3 he's 20-1 because he hasn't seen the field yet.
Yeah, I'll buy that. And then I think at that point it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
All right, Cardinals 8-8 last year. Fucking Kingsbury, shit kicker. He's their head coach. DVOA 19th last year. In offense, defense 10th. Cardinals offseason wise, we talked about it earlier. They sent Kenyon Drake to the Raiders. But they did pick up James Conner from the Steelers. I don't think that means much. I mean, James Conner seems pretty good. They picked up they picked up AJ Green from the Bengals. Looks like the Larry Fitzgerald experiment is over. He's currently an unrestricted free agent last I saw, and it looks like he's not going to be re-signed by Arizona. Dan Arnold, who we occasionally took shots on last year in primetime games to be the first touchdown scorer with those props at really good odds. He's in Carolina now. Spread talked about it earlier. Rodney Hudson picked up by the Raiders. So he's not their center anymore. On the defensive side of the ball, they signed J.J. Watt from Houston. Hassan Reddick, the edge rusher from Carolina. Patrick Peterson, who was in Arizona forever, is now a Minnesota Viking. But they did get Malcolm Butler, I think, to fill that role from Tennessee. As far as draft picks, they picked up 3 pretty solid picks. The stud linebacker out of Tulsa, Zaven Collins. And then I think they grabbed Rondale Moore, who is a wide receiver from Purdue.
Yeah, they grabbed him in the second round.
And then they picked up a cornerback. I don't know his name, out of Florida. I remember that.
Marco Wilson.
Okay, yeah. And then from what I saw, those were really like the big moves. The current odds have Arizona 6.5-1 to win the NFC West. And deservedly so. I rate the other 3 teams ahead of them in the division. So their season win total is 8.5 under -120. Spread, I'll start with you.
I like this team a lot, but let me talk to Coop a second. You really think that this Cardinals team is going to finish ahead of the Rams? Let's look at this team, Coop. Let's look at them. They added Jordan Phillips as a defensive tackle. That's a pretty good pickup, right? They added J.J. Watt. What a waste. I mean, he's pretty much in name only at this point. He's going to get you, 2 good games? That's a waste of salary cap space. Isaiah Simmons is a fantastic talent. Too bad we don't have a position for him. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? Is he effective? Does he even get time? Not too big on him. Zaven Collins, I don't know too much about him. Hopefully he'll turn out a little better here.
Really good from Tulsa. He's good.
Okay, so hopefully that will help them out. And then let's look at these corners. You lost Patrick Peterson. Now you're going to add him with Malcolm Butler. I mean, being a corner is like being a model. There's not much career after you're 30. And that's where I am with Malcolm Butler here. And look I love this kid, the quarterback. I love Kyler Murray. I want him to be good so bad. I don't even care that he dissed the A's to play football. But do we really think he's going to stay healthy for 16 games again? I mean, we saw him at the beginning of the year look like an MVP, right? And then as the season went on, you're 5'8" or whatever he is, 190, and you're taking hits from guys like Aaron Donald and Nick Bosa, guys like that. I just don't trust Kyler Murray to stay healthy here. I don't trust his defense at all. I think they're going to put up a lot of points. They're going to be an over team, and I think they'll win some games. But in this stacked NFC West, I see them last in this division.
So I was trying to take a look at what the Rams did with McVay in against the division.
It's 16-8. Sorry,
16.
Yeah.
I'm looking in 2017 or 2018 he went 5-1. So 16-8. I mean 0-6. If the team is healthy, come on, man. I mean,
Coop's sitting at home giggling that we fell for this. He can't believe that.
I don't know.
You let him rile you up on the Sunday show. Now you're letting him rile you up on the NFL preview show.
No, the Sunday show is all in good fun. I love Coop. He's like one of my favorite people. I really do love him. But this fucking crazy football talk is getting a little out of control now. All right.
Put that Rockets play on the board, Jay.
Let's go, Tyler.
They blew him out by like 20.
I mean, of course, they got Şengün. What'd you expect, Tyler?
He put up a close, like, I think 17.
He's balling.
Close to 30.
We'll see, though. I mean, this is kind of the same competition he's gone against or easier. We'll see what he's doing in the real NBA.
You're on the board for Tyler. I took him live plus 6.5 because of you. Love
and
to
for the
see
guys
it.
in the Discord that took the futures on him, we took the Rockets 20-1 to win the whole summer league.
Mm-hmm.
They were 10-1 before this game started. They're going to be like 5-1 now.
Yeah, they look hecka good. I mean, they got something to prove.
You'll love to see it. All right, T, what do you think about Arizona?
I think this team takes a step back. I mean, I think 8-8 was kind of like a gift to them last year, even though they kind of shit the bed towards the end of the year. I don't think Kingsbury's a good coach. They kind of tried to do the whole let's load up the team with weapons around our young quarterback and see what we got. But all the weapons they added stink. AJ Green's old. We haven't seen a full season out of him in how long? James Conner couldn't run for 2 yards vertically all last season.
I'm not a Kingsbury fan either.
Like, if you can't win with Patrick Mahomes and you can't win with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, I mean, it's like, I don't think you're all that good of a coach. It's like,
what do we think about the season win total being at 8.5 when they could legitimately go 0-6?
I think it's an under spot. I think it's an under spot, and if we could bet on Kingsbury to get fired this year, I'd bet it.
What do you think, spread? 8.5?
I do too, and I hate to contradict ourselves from earlier, but I think this is a different situation. I don't think their quarterback can stay healthy because he's the smallest player in the league. It's not like I'm betting Matt Stafford, who played years behind the worst line in the league and actually went out there banged up as heck. So, he showed some toughness too. This guy's just too small. I love him. I want him to succeed, but at some point we have to be realistic and just.
My only argument to that spread is like me and my buddy had this argument earlier because he was like, I'm betting Josh Allen to win MVP. And I was like, I have this weird feeling he's getting hurt this year. And he's like, how come you don't have the same feeling about Lamar or Kyler Murray? Lamar or Kyler Murray do that weird thing when they're running the ball. They want to get out of bounds.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic at it.
Or they
probably
fall,
better than I've seen.
The moment somebody grabs a hold of him, they just fall over.
Yeah.
What's Josh Allen do? Josh Allen tries to run linebackers over trying to get a.
He's also bigger than linebackers, though, so it's a little different,
He's going to get
right?
himself hurt. They didn't.
Yeah, or he'll hurt a couple
Trubisky
linebackers. Yeah. No, I just with Kyler, right? I mean, it's just the smallest player in the league. We've never seen a guy this size. I mean, 15 years ago, he wouldn't have been drafted.
Roles when he's playing quarterback, he's just zigging in and out, and all of a sudden he's out of bounds before he can grab a hold of him.
Yeah, but even if it's not an injury that kept him out of the game, like last year, you saw him once he slowed down, he just wasn't the same because he's not going to beat you from the pocket. He needs to be a dual threat.
He can't see.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not that there with his reads either. He's got a great deep ball, but the short, the underneath, hitting your third read, it's just not there yet. And I don't know if it will get there because I don't know if he's going to stay on the field long enough to learn all these abilities.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. So you guys both lean under 8.5 wins?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. They're in the toughest division in the NFL, I believe.
Yeah, I think I do too, man. I mean, 8-9 isn't even a failure in that division. They're in a really tough division, man.
If Chase Edmond goes down, they can't run the ball. James Conner ain't running the ball.
Yeah, it's like you said he was washed. Was he even ever dirty?
Kyler Murray.
He's so bad, James Conner.
He had one good year, and it was the year Bell sat out, and it was almost like he had a little extra motivation, and then the next year he stunk.
And if you watch, I mean, they were all line runs. Like, he wouldn't get touched till after 3 yards. It wasn't like he was making plays in the open field.
No,
and there's a lot of plays where you looked and you said a different running back would have got a 30-yard gain on that, and he got 4 yards.
Yep.
Do you think Kyler Murray's season numbers are worth taking unders on, just expecting him to get hurt spread?
I do, personally, yeah.
I think his passing yards are a little low. 41-50.
Yeah, that is true.
That's pretty
he could play
low.
13 games and get that.
His rushing yards are 680.5. It's like we seen him rush the ball a lot last year.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one of those two, I'd probably take his passing yards over though, because just like Spread said, like he's got to stay on the field for this team to have a chance. They probably cut back on his running a little bit. So I'd lean he throws for 4,200 yards. I think Rondell Moore is going to be a great touchdown prop guy too. Any touchdowns?
I agree. I agree with that. All right, so last team of the night, Seattle. Last year, they go 12-4. Carroll's obviously still there. They were 6th in offense and 16th in defense. Last year, the Seahawks offense was so good, man, at times. Last year, their defense, though, was also an abomination at times.
It was so bad.
The fact that they ended up 16th on defense actually surprised me when I saw the number. As far as the offseason moves, now Carlos Hyde, who was a big part of the team last year because Carson was hurt for a bunch of weeks, he's gone. He's on Jacksonville. They signed Tyler Lockett, though, to the extension, but they lose Philip Dorsett and David Moore out of the wide receiver room. They decided to not re-sign Greg Olsen, so Gerald Everett, who was on the Rams, is going to be their starting tight end. The only big move that I saw on the offensive line was signing Gabe Jackson from the Raiders. Fred said that earlier. Defensively, Jaron Reed signed with the Chiefs, but they did sign Al Woods from the Jags for defensive line help. They did grab Aldon Smith from the Cowboys for edge help. They made a couple interesting decisions in their linebacking core because they did not re-sign Bruce Irvin or KJ Wright. So they made a few secondary moves. I said earlier that Witherspoon was picked up by the 49ers, and they did not re-sign Shaq Griffin, who ends up signing with Jacksonville. So they're going to have some new pieces in the secondary. As far as the draft, they only had 3 draft picks. So they took the kid Eskridge out of Western Michigan, and then they took a cornerback out of Oklahoma, Trey Brown, and then an offensive lineman who I don't know his name from Florida. The current odds for Seattle to win the NFC West are plus 275, which is about 80 cents better than what the Rams and the 49ers were. Now, the season win total is 10 under minus 120. We saw the Rams and the 49ers had 10.5 season win total. So they're the books are setting them about a half step below Seattle. But the big question for me is, man, if that defense is as bad as it was last year, they're in trouble with Matt Stafford on the Rams and a healthy 49ers. They're not going to be able to get away with that this year. So I'll start with you, Tyler. Thoughts on Seattle?
I mean, looking at this team, they're literally just going to go as far as Russ can drag them. Like, Chris Carson will be hurt by week 5 with his shoulder injury. We all know that. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf were his only weapons. His tight end's going to be Will Dissly, who, he can catch a goal line touchdown, but
Gerald Everett's right now tight end 1 on the depth chart.
I see Dissly listed at 1, Everett 2. But do either of them guys strike you as a guy that can catch 8 to 9 balls in a game?
No.
Exactly.
No.
So
Dissly can. I think you're underrating Dissly a tad.
I have to see it before I believe it. And outside of Lockett and Metcalf, it's Penny Hart, a rookie Dwayne Eskridge, Freddie Swain, and John Arusa. Those are good weapons. The defense, I think, is still going to stink. We've seen Russ trying to demand his way out of here, as much as that was true or false in the offseason. I think this is the team that finishes 4th in the division. I think they take a giant step back from the last couple of years they've had.
Wow.
Here's the one thing that I don't think that people realize this year is that defense was so bad that they got away with a lot of stuff because Jared Goff was the quarterback of the Rams and because the 49ers were absolutely decimated with injuries.
Yeah, you could take
If that's not the case this year, there's no way this team's sniffing 12-4 again.
No chance.
Not with that defense. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to put them behind the Cardinals. I think they'll be somewhere around. I think you can make. I guess you can make an argument that the Cardinals and the Seahawks are going to finish 3-4 in some type of way. But I think I would probably still give the edge to Seattle because of Russ. Spread, what do you think about the Hawks?
Yeah, one thing to note about the defense, they were a bottom 10 defense for the first half of the season, and then they were a top 10 defense for the second half of the season. So they definitely picked up.
True.
I can't remember who it was that returned. Maybe it was Jamal Adams. And then the reports out of their camp is that Jamal Adams basically played with an injury all last year. That's why they only pretty much used him as pass rush and had him in a linebacker pass rush style role. And everyone was talking bad about his coverage. They said, no, he's back to 100% healthy. You're going to see the full Jamal Adams, the Jets guy that you got, and that he was carrying an injury, right? So that'll be big for this team. Bobby Wagner is a big player. I'm not as worried about the depth with the weapons because, I mean, first of all, I can't believe Tyler picked the very best quarterback in the division to be last because that's crazy to me. That never seems to happen in the NFL. Usually the best quarterback can at least get you to third. My concerns for this team is the line, though, the offensive line. I think that he can make it work with any weapon, right? We've seen Tom Brady make it work. Peyton Manning, they can make any receiver good. I think Russell Wilson can do the same thing if he has time. Is Dwayne Brown going to give him time? I don't really like him a lot as a tackle. Damian Lewis wasn't the best. Ethan Pochich is good. He had injury issues last year. If he goes down, Gabe Jackson didn't have a good year with the Raiders last year, but the Seahawks were so bad. He's going to be an upgrade for this team, so that's going to help. And then you got Brandon Shell, who came from the New York Jets. Do you remember him being good? I don't remember him being very good. Do you, Jay? So I think the line's going to be an issue.
I remember him being average, but they did flip a switch around like week 9 or 10 last year where the defense got really good. Mm-hmm. And then like the offense started sputtering like down the stretch.
Yeah.
That is true. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's hard to pick Russ to go fourth.
You want to hear the schedule they have to play?
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
They start off the year in Indianapolis.
That's a win. Because it's not
with that defense on the field against that offensive line.
But they're going to be starting Jacob Eason or Sam Ellinger.
Yeah, well, they said Carson Wentz is already at practice without a boot on, so
he's not
that out 100%.
Right? You think he's going to play week 1?
He's still got a couple weeks to get cleared, so I think there's a chance.
Let's give him a win. Let's give them a win.
All right, then they come home to play Tennessee. Derrick Henry's going to shred that defense.
That could definitely, could easily be a loss.
At Minnesota, there's another running back to shred your defense. At San Francisco.
They always seem to play Minnesota super close, too. Every time they play them.
Yeah, then they go to San Francisco. That's a loss.
So let's say that they're 1-2.
Then they have a short week. They got to go home and play the Rams on a Thursday night. That's a loss.
I don't know. The home team always wins those Thursday night division games.
Who's home?
Seattle's at home on that one.
All right, so yeah, let's say 2-2.
Even on a short week after having to leave San Fran, though, spread.
Yeah.
Then they go to Pittsburgh after that. That's probably a win.
That's funny. I have that as a loss too.
It could be. It could
be a loss, but I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be very good this year.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Maybe I'm overrating them a bad tad.
All right, 3-2.
Home for New Orleans.
4-2.
Home for Jacksonville.
I don't know how good Jacksonville is going to be.
Jacksonville's the giant question mark, I think.
Yeah. 4-3.
At Green Bay.
4-4.
Yeah, they
home
suck
for Arizona.
They'll win.
At Washington.
That could easily be a loss.
5 San Francisco.
Home for San Francisco.
Yeah.
Let's say they win that game, 6-5.
At Houston, 7-5.
Yeah.
At the Rams, 7-6. Home for for Chicago. Could be a weird game.
8-6.
Yeah, they've been
Detroit, 9-6.
6.
At Arizona to finish the year.
9-7.
Because they'll be going against the backup quarterback with that point. They'll win that one.
We missed a game though.
Yeah, they did because they're only 10-6.
Yeah, we missed the at the Rams loss.
Oh yeah, at the Rams.
10-7 or 9-8.
Yeah, 10-7 or 9-8. Right. So right there with the win total. And I'll tell you what, 10-7 is not going to win the NFC West.
No chance.
Not this year.
Not a chance.
It'll get you third.
Shit, it might even get you fourth.
No.
I can't believe you love Arizona so much.
I'm not saying I love Arizona, but I mean, I think they're going to go under that 8.5. But would it surprise me if they actually showed up and won like 10 games? Not really.
It would surprise me personally.
All right. So any season-long props, Tyler?
Not for them. I mean, outside of maybe taking the shot on Russ to finally get that MVP at 20-1, it's probably it. But with those weapons, I can't back them. Because I could see it again. We'll watch him for 6 weeks. He'll look like the MVP, and then he just kind of tails off, and then somebody else swoops in and takes it.
All right, boys. That's another 2-hour show on the AFC and NFC West. We'll be back next Tuesday to do either the North or the South. We got 2 more shows left. And then we are a month away from the start of the NFL season. Can't wait. So, all right, Spread, when's your next show?
Tomorrow? I'll be doing tennis tomorrow night with Susie. We're not exactly sure the time yet. We want to save it, so we'll push it back a little bit longer. Hopefully the DraftKings prices will be out. So not only can I do the betting side, she can go ahead and give some daily fantasy looks as well. So we'll be on tomorrow night. My guess is we'll probably go around 9 Eastern, but we'll probably wait till the DraftKings pricing has been released, and then we'll fire up then.
All right, cool. You'll see Spread tomorrow. You'll see me all weekend. I'm going to be live on Sunday like normal for NASCAR. Saturday, I'm also probably going to be live and do the Xfinity race because we don't have any UFC this weekend. And I might even pop on Friday night for an hour or two while Bellator and PFL is going on. And then Friday night, Coop and I will do our NASCAR video for the weekend also. So that's it for Tyler, for Spread. You know who I am. We'll see you guys later in the week. Later.